I'm Aernout Mik. I'm an artist from Amsterdam. Some people call me a video artist, but I don't never call myself really a video artist, because I think what I do is much broader than that. So it's partly sculpture, partly architecture, it's video, it's performance. The work kind of moves between all kind of different categories in my feeling. All my work deals with the relationship between video and architecture, the relation of the space of the video, the people in the video and the people outside the video, let's say it like that. The special thing about the show is that we set it up that we kind of try to mirror the movement of crowds in the pieces with the movement of the crowds in the museum. MoMA is one of the few places in modern art places around the world where on this scale that is possible. So this mirroring of the two streams of people is really, I think, something special of this show. The vacuum room is kind of an important piece in the exhibition. There are 6 screens surrounding you, and they are kind of set into a wall that kind of envelop the bodies of the viewers that are inside here. When the installation is finished, there will also be some chairs to the wall and some cushions in the center of the line on the floor, so people can choose a different position. The shape of the space is kind of a reflection of the shape of the space that has been shot in the video, and it shows a kind of a parliament kind of situation shot from six security cameras at the same time from all different angles, and there is a kind of permanent kind of an impasse going on, a crisis of different political conflicts. It relates kind of to the democratic crisis that was in the Ukraine. And many of my pieces, they kind of relate to different political or social events, but they're not direct images of it. There's a short moment, a short flash that brings in images that you recognize, but you cannot really place. But there's no sound in the pieces in almost all of my work. There's a lot of shouting actually in the video, but at the same time there's a certain silence. It's kind of a vacuum created. That's also why the title is a vacuum room. You could say this room, there's 2 pieces, training ground and vacuum room, but it's not completely a closed room because it connects with a piece right in front of the room, and the piece is called Schoolyard, and we produced it together with the MoMA, and I've never seen it projected yet. So maybe we can walk there and see if it works. I think it does work.
Well, now you're under the projection.
But this is an important thing, because kind of what I try to do is that you're always kind of almost inside the projection. So if I would be passing here and someone else is looking at the piece, I become kind of part of the piece. So the space of the video is not a completely different remote space from the space of the viewer. And I kind of like the image to kind of expand in the space. So that's why it's also always an architectural dimension, and that's also why the shape, the format is kind of still body related. So there's a possibility of kind of mirroring of the body of the viewer in the body of the actors in the piece. What's kind of typical school of a big city in Holland these days, where there's a very mixed ethnic and religious backgrounds. And it kind of mirrors all the kind of tensions that are in our society at this moment, but it doesn't play them out between the groups. There's a constant transformation of play into violence, and the whole thing transforms continuously, but it's a collective movement where in fact the borders between the people are falling away. And it's also interesting because there's an enormous amount of people going to the coffee shop, so there's really a passing. This is really a passage. This is one of the most crucial intersections of the exhibition. In the atrium hangs a large screen, and a panoramic screen, and the piece is called Osmosis in Excess. Made originally for the public art project Inside, which is both in San Diego and Tijuana, and it handles about the US-Mexican border. And in fact what it combines is 2 different streams of objects. Let's say on one hand a stream of cars, and we left on a large car graveyard on the hills to get a kind of anthropic landscape. And it's combined with documentary in both staged footage, because that's also something I very often combine, of pharmacies in Tijuana, where there are large amounts of cheap drugs bought by Americans, and it's a kind of image of how the circulation of goods from both sides of the border, like say a stream of cars and a stream of pills going on in both directions. the idea of osmosis, of like two separate systems next to each other, like two countries, or that even if you make the bore as rigid as possible, it's always things leaking in from one system into the other. The idea of crisis is something which these are all kind of global things that are taking place. For instance, when you enter, there's middleman, which shows this kind of archaic image of a stock exchange crash. I mean, all these, of course, that's an image I think is right in the right spot at this point to show that in New York. Middleman is made 2 months before September 11 and got its meaning after September 11 very strongly. But it now again it became kind of you're related to kind of events, actual events. And this is something what I think what is kind of a potential of the work, that because they are ambiguous images. They're not clear and saying this is only about this moment or this spot, but they have the potential to connect all the time again with things that are happening in the world, and you can make them kind of actualized and something like that.